In this video, what we're looking at is compression, and we're also looking at why we'd want to do that when we use the internet especially. And what compression is, it's really quite a simple term to understand what it's doing, not necessarily how it does it, but to understand what it is. Compression is reducing, making smaller, so reducing the size of a file or some data. And so to give you an idea of how this works, we're going to look at a really simple compression technique just to show you how we can get a large file and make it a small file. So imagine this is an image, and if you remember, images are made up of very, very small dots called pixels. So we've obviously made this much larger so it's easier to understand. And so what we've got here is each pixel will need an amount of space in order to store which color it is. So typically these days we use 24-bit color, so that's 3 bytes for each pixel. So I've got 3 bytes to store 1 pixel, and then I've got 8 pixels in this row, so 8 pixels going along and 4 pixels going down. So I need to multiply by 8 and multiply by 4. And that comes to 96 bytes. So if I store this as a bitmap image and I store every single pixel on here, it will take 96 bytes, assuming that I need 3 bytes for each pixel. Now instead of that, what I can say is, okay, I'll use my 3 bytes for each pixel, and then instead of me saying that I will have 3 bytes for every pixel, what I'm going to say is I will give a number afterwards for how many times that pixel repeats itself. So I've got 3 bytes, and then I've got another 1 byte to store this number as to how many times that pixel repeats itself. So I've actually got 4 bytes. And now I don't need to multiply by the 8 because all of these are the same. So all I need to do is multiply by the 4 going down here. So I just need to tell it there's a new pixel now, and that will repeat another 8 times. And so what I'm getting is actually 4 times 4, which is 16 bytes. And so I've gone and compressed my image here from 96 bytes down to 16 bytes, and I can now store that 16 bytes and I'll be able to get back to exactly where I was. Now this is a very simple example. Compression that uses that's used in JPEGs, MPEGs. These use much more sophisticated techniques, but it is a simple way in which you can start off looking at how compression works before it gets complicated, and it gives you an idea of how you can get a large file down to a small file. Now if we look at JPEG compression, which is a little bit more difficult to understand, so we're not going to actually look at how it works, but if we take a look at this image here, what we have here to begin with, the original image, which includes both text and an image. So the original image was 1.37 megabytes. And then we compress it down with a JPEG compression using the best quality JPEG gives us, and we now have 235K. So about 20% of the size we've compressed this image down to. Now you'll see we can almost notice no difference. It really does look like there's no difference in the two images. And this has taken us down to just 43 seconds. Assuming we're using a modem, 56K per second, it's now 43 seconds. And if we compress even further, so we make the quality worse on the JPEG, right down to here where we use JPEG's worst quality, and you can actually see on the image just around here, it's sort of gone a bit blocky and a bit blurred, but it's still possible to make out what the image is. And we've now got it down to 45K and just a mere 9 seconds. So compression is used to make files smaller in their file size, and this means they download or upload faster from the internet. And this is the main reason why we compress files on the internet especially, is because that means that they will come down quicker. Obviously these days we have faster connections, it's not going to be taking 9 seconds, but it still might be the difference of taking a second to get an image instead of taking 10 seconds. For video, it might be the difference of being able to play the video as you watch it, or wait a couple of days for it to download if we don't compress it. And also, if we compress files, it means that they take up less storage space on your hard disk or MP3 player or whatever else.